Welcome to this week's Florida Treasure Coast Market Update.
You better get fired up.
Guys, what's going on? I don't know how much of a cowboy I am, but Larry Neese from Larry Neese Roofing is having a Christmas party. He has a blowout of a Christmas party every single year, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year. Like you think the guy can't have a bigger, better Christmas party, and then every year he outdoes himself. And so this year the theme is Dukes of Hazards or country or what the Duck Dynasty guys, something like that. So I got myself a little cowboy hat, and I've got some other stuff coming. So we should have a pretty good time. So I thought, hey, let's just put the cowboy hat on here and have a good Wednesday, huh? So let's dig into some numbers. Wednesdays. What do we do on Wednesdays? Wednesdays we go and we look at market data to show you something about the Port St. Lucie market so you're a better educated buyer or seller in this market. I even get agents watching. That's where they get their data from. Great. I want to make you all more educated. I don't care if you overpay on a house. I don't care if you undersell. I don't care what you do, as long as you do it in an educated manner, right? I want you to be sharp. I see a lot of people overpricing their homes and they don't see the downfalls of it. I see a lot of people underpricing their homes and they have no idea they're doing it. I see a lot of people overpaying for homes. I see a lot of people coming in low, losing the home of their dreams over $5,000, $10,000. I want you to be sharp. So hopefully, if we keep doing these every single Wednesday, you are going to be the sharpest buyer and seller in this market. So let's do a little screen share here. Share the screen, entire screen. I've gotten really good technologically by doing all this stuff. All right, here we go. So this is a snapshot of the market, and we do this every single Monday, but you'll see there's a lot of columns that are missing, right? Because otherwise this thing would be a mile long. But we started this back, well, you can see between B and O, there's a whole bunch of missing, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, right? All those columns. Those are columns from 2023. So I've got those out of here, but you can see the first Monday of every quarter in 2024. Then you see the first Monday of every month in 2025. And then when it gets to November, you get every Monday, right? The 3rd, the 10th, and the 17th. So we're going to focus on the 17th right here. This is 2 days ago, Monday, and we're looking at the Port St. Lucie single family home market. So it's not Fort Pierce. It's not Martin County. It's not modular homes. It's not condos. It's not townhomes. This is single family homes in Port St. Lucie. Now you can see right up here. Let's look at row 4. Active listings. In 2024, quarterly, we had 1388, 1556, 1627, 1720. What has it been doing this year? 1742, 2004, 2100, 2100, 21, 20, 19, 19, 18, 19, 19, 19, and we're at the very bottom of 1906. Okay, so it did pump up right here, February, right? It was still pretty similar here in January, but then in February, boom, went up to 2004. And yeah, for 3 months, March, April, May, it went up over 2100, kind of peaked out there, and now it's come down, and it's slowly come down, not quickly, slowly. All right, and we're at 1906. But if you compare that to, I guess it's not 12 months ago, it's 13 months ago, there were 1,720 on the market in the first Monday of October of last year. The first Monday of October this year, there were 1,912. What's that? 200 minus 8 is 192. 192 more listings on the market than there were a year ago. What does that mean? That means as a buyer, you've got more options. It means as a seller, you've got more competition. Okay. So let's look at the next two lines. This is the same number, this 1906, but it's breaking it down up to 500 grand and 500 grand plus. Those are just arbitrary numbers I picked. They don't mean anything. And as prices go up, eventually I'll probably up that to 550 or 600 or something. But you can see roughly 2/3, 1242, are in that up to 500. 500,000 plus is roughly 1/3. I want to try something here. because I want to see if that difference has changed at all. 1242 divided by 1906. So 65%, man, that is almost exactly 2/3. 65% are up to 500 grand. You would think in 2024, I'm going to go back to January, you would think that number would be higher because homes go up over time. Let's see. I'm saying this like it's a trick and I know the answer. I do not know the answer. 61. So it was actually lower, meaning there was a greater portion of the market active for sale in January of 2024. That's almost 2 years ago, in that 500,000 plus range than there are now. Okay, so that's good for buyers. That's good for buyers. So now let's look at the next number. Median asking price. This is probably the most worthless data point in this whole thing, but I put it up here, right? If you're looking at how much your property is worth, it's pretty common for a seller to say, hey, my property is worth X because my neighbor's asking Y, and my property's a little bit better than his, so I'm adding on 5-10 grand. Okay, that's an asking price. That's not a sales price. He could be 50 grand overpriced. He could be 25 grand underpriced, and your home is worth more. You got to look at sold prices. Asking prices do not matter. My home's probably worth about 500. I can ask 800 for it. Doesn't make it worth 800. It's still worth 500, right? So don't look at asking prices. Look at sold prices. That's why I think that's the most worthless one. But let's look throughout the year and see where have asking prices been. The median: 469, 67, 69, 65, 66, 65, 69, 69, 66, 69, 64, 60, 59. So they're coming down. Again, buyers, that's a good thing for you. That doesn't necessarily mean prices are coming down, although it probably means that, right? We'll take a look in a second. It could also mean that a greater portion of the market is lower priced properties because for whatever reason, that's who's selling, right? And which would mean the opposite's also true. A lower percentage of the market currently for sale is higher priced properties. I'm betting it's a mixture of those two. It's both lower priced properties are coming on at a greater rate, higher priced properties are deciding they don't want to sell, and I think prices have subsided, maybe even come down. Certainly in certain areas, in certain HOAs with certain details or criteria of the home, we've seen certain markets drop. I've seen certain markets go up, but we've seen certain markets drop. Now, these next 3 rows are kind of like the last 3, right? Except they're solds in the last 45 days. So again, what did we see last year? And this is just a snapshot. It's the first Monday of every quarter. Last year, January, 442 over 45 days. April was 524. July, it was 590, 545 in October. Let's compare those to this year's firsts of the quarter. Last year, 442 in January. This year, 44 less at 398. Okay, April was 524 this April, 524, virtually the same. Okay, so are we getting a market pickup in the spring? Well, I don't know. Let's look at July. 590, whereas this year it was 526. That's a 64 home difference. That's over 10% drop in sales. Not sales prices, but the amount of sales that occurred in a 45-day span on the MLS. Last year in October, it was 545. This year, it's 542, virtually untouched. Very interesting. All right, so what portion of those, you would think if 65% of the listings on the market right now are under 500 grand, you would think roughly 65% of sales should be under 500 grand. Well, it's right over here, 406 out of 503. I already know where this is going. 80.7%. Let's just call it 80%. 65% of the listings are up to 500 grand. 80% of the sales are up to 500 grand. What does that tell me? If you've got a $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 listing, you're not as pretty a girl at the ball as you may have been 2-3 years ago. A lot of people wanted the $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes, and they didn't ask questions. They just figured out how to make it happen. It's different now. Now people are looking for affordability. People are crazy, man. People have human brains and they do what everybody around them tells them to do, what the news tells them to do. They just do. I've seen it. I guarantee in certain aspects of life, I do it too. We're human. But in 2021, everybody was saying, you got to get a house. You got to pay whatever you got to pay to get into it, do it. Everybody did it. They figured out how to make it happen no matter what. Now everybody's saying, "Ooh, sky's falling, be careful." So everybody's being careful. So now that 3 to 375 is selling really well. If you got a pool, maybe up to 4.25, 450. HOAs are tougher. You're looking for any way to cut costs. It's tough to cut insurance unless you put money into a home, right? Can't cut taxes. I mean, unless you're going to homestead it, but that's a one-time decision you can make. You can't really change your rate unless you're going to buy down the rate in the beginning, but that costs money out of pocket, right? But one thing you can impact is not going into an HOA and taking on that HOA fee. And that's what a lot of people right now, because affordability is the focus, not winning the house like it was in 21. Now it's affordability. People are saying the one thing I can impact is getting rid of that HOA. Now I'm an HOA guy. I love my HOA, but this would not be the time to sell my home if all I cared about was maximizing what I could get for it. I'm going to wait till affordability is not as big of a deal like it was back in 2021. Nobody cared. They could talk about affordability, but at the end of the day, everybody was blowing 10, 20, 50 grand more than asking price to get that house without getting an inspection, guaranteed deposit funds. It was crazy. Affordability was not what we were seeing in contracts. You might have heard it come out of mouths. You might have seen it on television, but that's not what we saw in reality. Now it absolutely is. I think that's why a larger portion of the market right now is that higher priced market. But when you look at what's selling, those higher priced listings make up a smaller portion. So without digging into inventory, which I've done in the past and I'll do in the future, I can tell you if you've got a home that's 3 to 375 and it's in good condition and it's got a 10-year-old roof or newer, you're not necessarily looking at a buyer's market. A lot of those markets are 3-4 months. In my opinion, that's a very neutral market. It's not a buyer's market. It's not a seller's market. If you're priced appropriately, you're staged great, it's going to sell. It's not going to be a problem. People are like, is it going to take me 5-6 months to sell? How much is your home? Maybe 350. No, it's not. Not if you price it right and you're marketed right and you got strong staging. You're going to look just fine. You're going to sell. Now, a little different story if you get a $600,000-$700,000 home and you're in an HOA and you don't have a pool and you've got a 15, 20, 25-year-old roof. All of those red flags make it more and more and more and more and more challenging to sell. And yes, some of those markets, some of those HOAs, some of those price points with some or missing some of those criteria points are going to have 12 to 18 months of inventory. That isn't a buyer's market. That's a ridiculous buyer's market. That is a strong buyer's market. And you're going to see that. So when somebody tells you Port St. Lucie is a strong real estate market, Port St. Lucie is a weak real estate market, that is a weak, inaccurate, not and accurate, a weak, inaccurate perception of the market. Because a great response to that question is going to be segmented. Well, let's talk specifically what you're looking for. Are you buying or selling? What price point? Are you looking for a pool? Do you want to be in an HOA? Are you okay with an older roof? Are you going to pump 50 to 100 grand into it? Or do you need something that's ready to go? Depending upon what you say, I'm going to give you different answers if I truly know the market, right? So if you have an intelligent professional and you give them all the detailed information, you should be able to get a really accurate depiction of that particular market. Now, let's look at median sales prices. This, I think, is the best data in this whole thing. Last year, 420, 404, 423, 415. This year, 412, 418, pumped up. 425 went up, but then it came down. 419, 414, 415, 409, 405. Now, boom, pop back up. 2 months in a row, 415, 430. We're going strong. Now it's coming back down, 419, 415, 407. And again, that doesn't necessarily just, that doesn't it alludes to the fact that prices are coming down over the last couple months. But again, some of that might be the fact that prices are coming down. Some of it might be the fact that a greater percentage of sales is lower priced properties. So it doesn't mean your 400 is necessarily worth 350 now. It might be worth 390, 395. But what it means is if you've got 10 homes selling for 600 and 10 homes selling for 350, and only 10 of those 20 sell, 8 of them are the 350s and 2 of them are the 800s or 600s, whatever I said. Whereas a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it wasn't 8 and 2, right? It was 6 and 4, 7 and 3. So now when you add all those up and you look at the medians, yeah, the median before may have been a little bit higher. Again, I do think some of this is attributed to prices coming down, although I don't think it's dramatic. I think it's in the single digits. But some of it is the people who are buying right now, as a percentage of the total buyer population locally in Port St. Lucie, are looking for more affordable homes than they previously were. That's a big part of it. Guys, hopefully this was helpful. I love this stuff. I hope you loved it too. I hope you got some benefit out of it. If there's something you'd like me to dig into in the future, certainly let me know. We can do anything that you'd like. I can look into a specific HOA, a price point, with a pool, without a pool, acreage, no acreage, on the ocean, whatever you want. But I want to make sure you guys are the most educated buyers and sellers in this market. Guys, thanks for joining me and have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. Take care.